right. Well, welcome to Chop It Up for this here Tuesday in what month are we in? October. Dude,
October, sir.
this year is flying by.
Well, it's because, yeah, 2020 was a dumpster fire, so
Yeah.
everything else feels like a breeze.
The fact that we're all here and nothing's gone well, things gone crazy, but not
Majorly
as
wrong, right?
crazy as
Right.
20. We had murder hornets and
Oh,
yeah,
everything under the sun. Yeah,
yeah.
you name
We
it.
had all the plagues out of the book of Exodus.
All
Yeah,
of them
at the same time.
at the same time, literally
All
all at
right.
once.
So my name is Kevin, host of Chop It Up, which is a weekly podcast, video cast we do where we have conversations about everything under the sun. We bring the barbershop conversations online. I'll let my co-host, my partner here, introduce himself, and then we'll talk about the person that got kicked off.
Absolutely. So this is Darian Lewis from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Good friend to my man Kevin Crawley. Just happy to be here as always.
Awesome, awesome. And then if you are a regular viewer or listener of this here podcast, we are missing Tori. He got kicked off for one unpopular opinion too many. Just one. No, just joking. He had some other things going on, so he's not going to make it today.
Yeah.
But we definitely miss him as far as adding the value to the channel and adding value to our podcast. But we're going to jump into this really quick. All right. So we were just talking a little bit before the kickoff of this, and there's a lot that's been happening in sports this week. Lots of stuff. I think one of the key things, or one of the things that I think is on everyone's mind because it happened last night. Um,
Yeah.
Jon Gruden,
Yeah.
famed coach, resigned. Now,
Yeah.
was it he actually resigned, or was he given the option to? You go on one way or the other. All right.
I, who with John? First of all, I'm surprised people are surprised.
Yeah.
He has always given me that air of supremacy, uh,
Yes.
as PC as I can be. He's just always given me that impression. He's always given me that air.
Hmm.
So the idea that all of this came to light, doesn't surprise me.
Right.
Or I should say, what came to light doesn't really shock me. Um, but the way it blew up, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about that because basically, for those that are may have been living under a rock for the past 48 or 72 hours, basically, in the investigation of again the Washington Redskins, this is where this came from. Now known as the Washington Football Team. In the investigation of that and some of their practices and how they operate, emails from his time as a coach with that team came to light. Initially, the first report was about some racially insensitive, whatever comments regarding, I think it was a former executive for the NFL Players Association. And then I think it was Saturday going into Sunday, all of a sudden things come out about him making homophobic, transphobic, and every other kind of phobic comments you could make.
Yeah.
So, a couple of things that I took away from it and that I found interesting is that one, um, when it first came out, as far as the racial comments that he made, he did put out something that said he doesn't have a racist bone in his body. Well, if all of them racist, I don't know. All right, but then two, the fact that a lot of people of color stood up for him, right? And then all of a sudden, now we get into the transphobic, homophobic, and every other type of phobic. And now it's like, no, we got to let you go now. So, why, there's a couple of ways to look at it. One, why was the racial issues not the deal breaker? Right.
Right.
Secondly, why is, and so now we get to this point. And then we haven't really even talked about the fact that this happened years ago with the Washington Football Team.
10 years.
And no one's talking about, well, why didn't they raise a red flag? Why was this not an issue for them?
You, you know, uh, and honestly, at there's a certain level you get to, I think, where people just, and it's in our culture, you just got to distance yourself. You
Right.
know, it doesn't matter if you feel the same way. I can almost guarantee you the private conversations where John, you know what we got to do.
Right.
It's not that we disagree. It's not that we haven't had those conversations with you in private, but you know
It's
what
not
we got to do.
it's not that we don't that we have an issue with it. We got to do something.
We gotta distance ourselves, and so we can do this one of two ways. We can either fire you or you can go. Your
Yeah.
choice. And at the end of the day, he chose to leave. So that may not be how it went down, but I get a feeling it's somewhere close. It's in that ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, here's the thing: you have again, I point out, you have that this went to executives within a football team, right? This was conversations that he's had. These are just the ones that came to light that they had still on the server, right? So eh, these are not foreign conversations or conversations that just came out of nowhere.
Right.
And so then you have to also think about, I was reading something and said this is why Kaepernick got paid instead of them allowing the deposition and really opening that whole can of worms. Because if this is just what came out from this investigation, imagine what else would have come out,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Again, this is not the fact that this even came out. They're not. I think they really, the other reason why he resigned with this blow up is because they don't want to keep pulling on that string.
Right,
Because what will unravel could go all the way up to Roger Goodell, and the NFL just cannot afford for
right,
everybody's real feelings to come out. When
exactly.
you've got what is it, 80 to 90% men of color
Hmm.
are the actual athletes that play the sport.
Yep.
You know, um, and then on top of that, all of this push to be inclusive, all of this push to be tolerant, all of this push that they've been doing, it's like, if they start really pulling on those strings of private conversations and find out, oh, this is how you really feel. Yeah, all of this is a sham. All of this is a lie. Yeah, the
Right.
NFL, uh, they won't go away, but it'll wound them enough to where they'll limp for a number of years.
Yeah, because I mean, and I kind of said this last week. We were talking about something else as far as I think it was last week. We were talking about just the disparity of how certain players are received versus in the NFL versus the NBA. Right? We were
Right,
talking about how, for example, Roethlisberger has been
right,
accused twice, nothing major. Would that fly in the NBA? Right? So, if we're honest, the NFL, in many respects, has a problem with race, in my opinion. You have owners that still have almost said that it's almost like you work for me, and this is almost like a plantation
plantation.
mentality,
Yeah,
right?
which it has
Um,
been accused on a couple of occasions.
Shout out to Jerry Jones. Um, so
The plantation master.
listen,
Oh man, if he ain't Django for real.
I was just about to say that he could have been the role model for Django,
Wee.
right?
Yeah.
So, you have that. You have the way that they have treated and responded to issues. Um, the fact that and then it's not just the league itself, but it's even, if we're honest, it's even the fan base.
Oh
The
yeah.
fan base is completely okay with what is probably okay with what Gruden said, did, what have you, and sees no issue with it, right? Not saying
Right.
that that's everyone that does the NFL, because we like the NFL, we watch it, right?
Right.
But it is something that when you're talking about the target, if you will, or the ones that the NFL would be most likely to want to satisfy as far as their fan base, they're okay with it. But it just got too much, like you said. If there was a um, pulling one thread, it was going to pull a whole bunch of things down and just leave the NFL completely exposed.
Because you got to go to who were you talking to and how did they respond? And that's the stuff that
Hey,
Morris.
Morris, y'all still them boys. I got you.
Oh boy, that's that's faithfulness to the end. You hear me?
Hey,
Anyway, but yeah, I don't even remember what I was saying now. He threw me off with that.
but yeah, I mean, it is as far as the fan base, as far as how
Right.
they're going to operate. They're going to satisfy that, right?
Well, we saw that with the whole taking a knee.
Hmm.
We saw that issue. First of all, the spin masters got a hold of why it happened.
Right.
Um, Kaepernick never touched the ball in the game again. Um, the
Hmm.
controversy of if you take a knee, basically you're fired. The owners took a stance. The fan base completely uh, in general
Hmm.
missed the point and missed the point very loudly.
Right.
Very adamantly missed the whole point and took it as offense that somebody would actually protest anything
Right.
and use their beloved game time as a stage and an opportunity to post that protest. So uh, yeah, I honestly don't. I, I'm surprised it went this far with John, and I would love to. At some point I'm gonna dig in a little deeper and find out what really triggered. If we may never know, but what really triggered him quitting
Hmm.
because um, you know the only thing I can honestly think of is the misogynistic comments, the comments against women.
Well, I think that was one, but in all honesty, I think it was the homophobic ones that really kind of put this over the edge. I mean, if you think about where we are as a society right now, what things are, I mean, just put it in the context. Also, right now there is a movement to cancel Dave Chappelle for his
Right,
last comedy
right,
album or
and
comedy special.
it just came out.
Yes, like it dropped, and like 10 minutes later, after people like skimmed through it, it was like, no, we gotta cancel you.
Yeah, we got to protest, we got to cancel, we got to but yeah, it's we live in a highly
Mhm.
offendable
Right.
society. And I was actually reading somebody's post about all of this. Um, yeah, very true.
Yeah.
But I was reading somebody else's post that they feel like, and I agree with them. We've forgotten how blessed we are to be in this nation. We don't understand the level of wealth and prosperity that we actually live in. Um, when you compare our culture and lifestyle and economy to the rest of the planet,
Right.
we honestly, you have to choose to be poor. You have to like you have to choose to be, you know, find yourself in a situation where there's no hope for you to move forward. So what do you do when you've got basically all of your needs met?
Mhm.
Yeah, you got to go to work. Yes, you got to be responsible,
Right.
you know, but what else do you do but find another enemy, and that enemy happens to just be your thoughts
Right.
and how you feel.
Yeah, we especially in where we are as a nation right now, we are looking for ways to divide ourselves. We're looking for others. And if I can find an other that does not necessarily share my thing, I think about, it used to be that as far as target demographics, it was just like, look, we're just gonna go everybody 18 to 20, 18 to 26, 26 to 35, and 35 to
Hmm.
50, and then
Hmm.
50 and beyond,
And above, beyond, yeah.
but now, if you think about how niche we are, right? Just from because I've done marketing for, on Facebook ads and stuff like that. You can niche down to what type of phone people use, or what operating system they access Facebook on, and things like that. So you can niche down and find your target audience, right? I even remember the story of the radio station, the Christian radio station in Tulsa, KXOJ, I think it is, right?
Yeah.
And I remember that I forgot who I had heard it from, but they have identified their target listener, right? And I forgot the name they had. They have a name for her. They know what kind of
Betty.
car she drives. They know, what, how many kids she has. They know what her
Hmm.
education level is, all of that. And so we have gotten into a place where you can really get very specific about who you're addressing or who you're talking to. And if anybody's outside of that, then they depending upon what it is, they can be the enemy, right?
Well, I know, just jumping, psychologically deep for a second.
Mhm.
Um, once you've made an identification with who you connect to, who you associate with, who you identify with, that group, your tribe, if you will.
Right,
What solidifies your identity though is that you must have an enemy. And a lot of times, and people don't understand that psychologically,
right.
you get to choose your enemy.
Yeah,
You have a choice in that. It's not just who opposes your tribe. It's
right.
not just who, or so you believe, opposes what you stand for. The other thing that a lot of people don't understand is that all power base, all needs an opposing force.
Mhm.
If you add three to the mix, you actually water down the power base of the two.
Yeah,
The more various view, which is one of the reasons why though we have other parties, we really only have a two-party system of government,
right.
because it keeps both parties strong to go at each other.
Mhm.
I identify with you, therefore you are my enemy, and that keeps the power base is strong. And a lot
Right.
of people just don't realize, man. At the end of the day, I get to choose who my enemy is going to be,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to choose. I'm not going to choose a John Gruden. I'm
Right,
just
right,
I'm just not going to have an issue with him. Short of us having a literal face-to-face confrontation where he's coming at me. Other than that, hey, bro, I wish you the best. Hope you get it together. I gotta go. I got stuff to do.
right, right.
you know,
Because because it'll be now. What'll be interesting is, does he bounce back? Do
and
we
how?
do we see him back in any type of role, whether it be commentator or coach, assistant coach, what have you, analyst? Do we see him ever come back, and how does that happen? Right? How does that take place?
Uh, Good question. He may be able to stay. I don't know, man. I don't believe if he wasn't such a good analysis guy,
Hmm.
he's one of the best to ever do it.
Right.
Which is also one of the reasons why it made him such a good coach, is because he
Hmm.
never was, and he said it to his own admission, never was a top athlete. So he knew he had to develop some other
That's mine.
skills,
Yep.
in order to really to be where he wanted to be. And if I'm not mistaken, they've got a family legacy of at least high collegiate sports, if not professional.
Hmm.
And so he had to, which is the other thing, you got to live up to the name.
Yeah.
Um, and so he became John Gruden. The challenge is that he never. It's so hypocritical to me. It's just hypocritical to me. I don't believe he's done either. Uh, Morris for the win.
Okay.
Morris for the win. But I don't. Yeah, I don't believe. I don't. I believe he's probably going to find himself contributing silently,
Right.
and then slowly his name is going to be dropped that he did XYZ. I
Hmm.
believe it's going to be it's going to be the same thing, a little bit different than what happened with Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Um, Tiger finally started playing again. He was playing horrible. But he started playing again, and then he got, he would withdraw. Then he play again, and he would withdraw, and then he finally stepped up and actually started winning again. And that was what, 5, 6 years later.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's Tiger again.
Right. But now Tiger's issue with his, are you talking about with his wife and the whole cheating scandal and
Yeah,
everything?
that whole sexual addiction and all of that stuff.
Yeah, but see, I think there's a little difference there in my, because I think for Tiger it was, we're disappointed, right?
And I agree with you. There's a huge difference in the offense.
Right.
But I'm just laying out. I was just using Tiger as an example of how I believe John Gruden is actually going to wind up 5, 6 years from now being John
Oh yeah.
Gruden again. You know, we just don't. We have very short memories when it comes to our winners, man.
True. Well, again, depending upon who they are, what they look like, and where, what you're talking about as far as if we're talking world of sports, I think that plays a factor into it too. I think we have we have short term memory for some, right? And we've talked about before, the short term memory didn't seem to help Michael Vick.
But he didn't have just won a ring either.
True.
I promise you, the conversation. Well, let me not say that. I think the conversation would have been a little bit different had he brought his city a championship that year or the
Okay,
year before.
I hear you.
You know, but the fact that you were, like I said, he was on the peak heading down in his career
Right.
when all of that came out. And honestly, sometimes I just wonder, man, this stuff is not accidental. I just don't believe it's accidental.
Hmm.
I think some of this stuff is calculated. I honestly think it was calculated with what's my boy's name? I'm looking right at him right now for the Jaguars
Oh,
coach.
Urban Meyer. Urban
Yeah,
Meyer.
you
Yeah.
know, people saw an opportunity to and if you look at the video, I, no, don't get me wrong. He definitely should have kept his nose a little more clean than that.
Absolutely.
You
But
know, Eh, d- did
it's
it
it's
really call for him to? People were calling for his resignation. Because this girl was dancing on him.
yeah.
Let the Jaguars make it to the playoffs. Let them make it to the playoffs. That'll change everything. You don't mess with dogs.
That's true.
Well, that's true.
That is very true.
That is very, very true.
All right.
We
Then also in the world of sports this week, we had um Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury,
Lord, that was
which
a fight. That was still a good fight,
it was.
in my opinion. That was still a good fight, but the results, unfortunately, were expected.
Yeah, because I'm sorry. I think that um Wilder just needs to be quiet now. It's been what? This is the third time. I think the last time there was talk and speculation that said that Fury had cheated because there was, you had still images of his glove looking kind of funny, right? Um, but this one, it was a good fight. They went toe to toe, but when he went down, Wilder went down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's still so much controversy of the fact that you know Fury, if you'll think about it, he had the exact same thing happen to him prior to Wilder, and
Mhm.
that was two knockdowns within less than 10, 20 seconds of each other. Um, and there was no there was no wave off. There was, just get
Right.
up and, plus somebody else was asking about the slow count. They feel like there needs to be a regulation with that count. Either it needs to come from ringside or, something, because depending on the moment,
Right.
that ref can have a quick count or a slow count, and it's all on him. You know,
True.
um, and he's assessing the situation while he's counting.
Right.
So, back in the day, I get it. That makes sense. But now we just we've got we've gotten way too sophisticated in digital to not find a way to make that regulated.
So are
You
you
know,
talking kind of like an instant replay type situation? Not instant replay itself, right? You can't replay a knockdown, right? But timers and something set on the side that says,
yeah,
okay, if they go down, this is when the clock starts.
click. Yeah, I would even extend it. I would extend it to 15 seconds instead of a 10 count because it's not
Yeah,
10 seconds. It's a 10 count.
right.
So I would extend that to I would extend that to 15 seconds. But as soon as they hit the canvas, click.
Yeah.
The time begins. Ding, you get a one bell, and at the 15. At that point, if he's not up and able to function, you're
Hmm.
done.
Yeah.
Um, I think in all, if you're gonna be fair, let's be fair.
Right.
Because guys, they talked about. I watched another thing about Tyson, how he honestly used the 10 count to his advantage. He's
Yeah.
like, I don't have to rush. He trained himself to not have to rush to get up, and to collect himself. And if that's the truth, then it has paid off. It has paid off very well. You know, Whereas Wilder, yeah, man, he how he even stood till 11 rounds. There's just the other thing is if 277 to a heavy 239.
Hmm.
He put on weight, trying to, dude, that's still almost 40 pounds heavier, and he's 2 inches taller.
Right.
So y'all lock up.
He rested on you.
Yeah, he's really, and that's exactly what he did. I would wear you
Hmm.
out with it too.
Yeah.
You know. So there's just a lot of things I felt like uh, either boxing needs to do a super heavy, because no man that size should move that quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dear God, that man can move very fast. The idea that you are missing someone who's 6'9", almost 300 pounds, and yeah, that
Morris
dude
Morris said he wants his money back.
is. Morris, you got to admit that was a good fight, man. That was a good fight. Wilder at least showed up.
Yeah. I I really was pulling for Wilder to pull it off to win, but yeah. I'm
So I want to know who's going to be able to take on Fury. Man, his size, he's massive.
and see, I don't follow boxing as much to even be able to put anyone up for him. So
He's man, honestly, I'm trying to think. Could even a Mike Tyson in his prime carry a punch to really put him down?
ooh, see, I'll say this, and I'll say this because Mike in his prime was laying out anybody that came in the ring, pretty much, right? And because he was so compact, if you will, because Mike would duck down and then come up like he was swinging. What
Right,
was that punch out? Like he was doing a super punch out.
right.
He would literally come from his shoelaces with an uppercut, and all you know is you flew back. So and this is one of those things where it's like I don't really want to compare, uh, time frames and um different what's the word I'm looking for? Time, different times as far as boxing, but that would be one to kind of see if Mike could pull it off against a Fury. Because Fury is quick.
He's very quick. Uh,
So yeah, Morris
well,
says
that's
this
that, and
is
that's
that's
what
the
I'm
thing.
saying. It's like the
Yeah.
dude is massive, um, by anyone's standards, and he's a good boxer. He learned
Yeah.
how to box. He's not a brawler. He's not
Mm-mm.
just a fighter. And
Right.
I think that was the other challenge with Wilder. To me, he got. I didn't. I watched the second. I didn't watch the first fight. I watched the second fight.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, he just didn't look good. And then watching this third fight, to me, I saw the holes in his game, if you will. They were
Yeah.
really exposed. It's like, dude, you've obviously learned a few things,
Hmm.
but in almost 2 years, they couldn't train you to do a little more, just a little bit more.
Somebody
Um,
said that he needs to fire his trainer.
he did. He fired his trainer and got another one. That was the other thing. He completely reversed his entire team, more or less.
Wow.
He got a nutritionist and he did all this different stuff, man. But at the end of the day, he's not a boxer.
Yeah.
And so, if you come within striking distance of that right hand, and that's his claim to fame,
Mhm.
you know. And you gotta be more than the right hand. Plain and simple. You just gotta be more than the right hand. So yeah.
Yeah. Usain Bolt, you'll never be the guy that tall and that fast. Possible. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to see boxing consider a super heavy. Kind of split it like um they don't have a split in the heavyweight division, do they? Light
I don't
heavy
think
and
they do.
and heavy. Like MMA does.
I don't believe they do.
Yeah. MMA, I think that was the smartest thing that MMA did was to split the heavies. It's like, yeah, it's not just, 210 and on.
Right.
That's still not fair competition. And I get it. You don't get too many Tyson Furies coming into the ring, but um I think we're gonna see more.
Hmm.
I absolutely believe we're gonna see more. And people are not relegated anymore to particular sports because of their body build.
Right.
He's the last person I would have thought would have made a career out of boxing. Just looking at him.
Yeah.
He looks out of shape to me, and he was in the better shape of the two.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
Very true. Oh yeah.
He
Very true.
was. He was in better conditioning than Wilder. Which that is the other thing that blows me away. It's like, I mean, I'm not a boxer, so let me. I don't want to judge nobody, but based on what I'm looking at, to me, um, he relied too much on what he's used to having to rely on, and at this level, brother,
You got to come with it or don't come at all.
yeah, yeah, I think
Speaking
he
of
should have
teams
trained.
that came with it,
Okay.
Texas A&M
Yes,
came with it
yes, yes, yes,
and beat
yes.
Nick Saban's Alabama.
Did Saban even do an interview afterwards?
I was just looking. I think he did. He did do something. I was just reading a headline. Where basically it's like everybody's got to learn from this one.
Man, when I tell you, I feel bad for them boys because he's not just gonna be like, okay, guys, let's throw that in the trash and we're moving on. Yeah, that
Right.
ain't Nick
Not at all.
at all, at all.
Yeah, he
Mm-mm.
basically says so. The quote is that he called the loss disappointing, but everybody needs to remember how they feel and not forget about it or not forget it. When I talk about having respect for winning, that's what I mean. You want to avoid the feeling you have when you lose, which, yeah, I mean, there is for players to go to Alabama and really, if we're honest, the fact that they rarely lose, if ever, and to lose in this manner to an unranked team is gonna sting. And I'm sure he
Yes.
gonna condition and make them run and do all those fun things that coaches do when you suffer a loss, and they're gonna remember this one.
Yeah, you you would much rather just win. Not okay. Don't celebrate. Don't even commemorate. Just win because I don't
Mm.
want to lose and let him. Yeah, no man. No. That is one guy who he has literally he hates to lose so much.
Yeah,
It just doesn't make sense to him, which is why him winning 10, 12, 15, 20 rings doesn't that he'll never get tired of it.
right,
He'll
right.
literally never get tired of winning.
Here's the question though: how many of the former Alabama players got a call like y'all need to talk to these young boys? Because
Interesting.
I'd imagine that especially when you lose something like that, right? I'd imagine that you might get especially if you're trying to motivate them and help them bounce back or whatever. He may have reached out to a couple of players and like, look,
I need you to come
expressed
through.
to right, right.
I need you to come through.
Doesn't have to
Yeah,
be doesn't have to be overt as far as everybody knows you flying down, but send a video, something.
yeah. Just remind them who we are and what we're about. Yeah, there's I am very curious as to how all of this is going to go down because it's not just players that lose. It is
Mm-mm.
really a team, a team effort. So where were the
Mhm.
coaching mistakes? I didn't watch the
Right.
game.
Yeah.
I wish I would have now. But where are the coaching mistakes that were made? Where are the opportunities that were missed of the fundamentals? Because
Hmm.
Nick Saban's and one of the things that I love about his coaching style, and he said this on several occasions, is I don't worry about winning a game. I don't worry about winning a championship. Play this next play to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
That's it. So when you get down to that micro level of a game,
Hmm.
you start nitpicking, okay, what are the basic stuff? Did you drop a ball you should have caught?
Right.
Did you miss a blown coverage? Cause
Right.
cause what was the score?
Oh,
45-39 or something like that?
think so. Let me just see.
Texas A&M scoring that much on an Alabama team, first of all, you know, 41-38.
Okay.
Yeah, 41-38. So that's a lot of points to put up on an Alabama team.
Yeah.
That's a lot of points. So, I'm looking at that. So he's a defense guy. He's not offense. You know what I'm saying? He's a defense guy. So,
Right.
yeah, he's gonna nitpick that thing all the way through. Was it a good game? Yeah, man. I wish I'd have watched it. I saw some snippets of social media stuff, people watching it and commenting on it.
Yeah.
And then when I saw that score, I was like,
That's kind of my reaction because we were in Kansas visiting my son, so we were just running around doing everything, running around crazy. But yeah, when I saw that, I was like, "Ooh, that's not what that's supposed to look like."
mm-mm,
Did
mm-mm.
somebody get those numbers mixed up? Because that's not what that should be.
And that's going to be A&M's signature win for the year. You know that see, if they don't win another game, they beat Alabama.
They
So
start giving themselves rings.
right,
Like, look,
hey,
this is our championship right here.
right here, yeah, they took down the number one team in the country,
Hmm.
and they were unranked at the time. So
Right. I think they got what 20. They're 21st now. They're ranked 21st.
yeah, they jumped up to 21. Um, Alabama fell to 5, which I was surprised at that. You know, I'm huge into college football, probably more than pro, and just that ranking was. I get it, man. Everything was weird this week. I'm telling you, it was a weird week. Texas blowing a 21. Sorry, Morris. Love you, man. Texas blew a 21-point lead. They smacked OU in the mouth coming out the gate. I did watch that game,
Yeah.
and 14 points within 2 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, and all of a sudden you get to the second half, and some personnel changes, and all of a sudden here we go.
Hmm.
Uh, so. Like I said,
Yeah.
crazy week.
Yeah, because
Crazy
I do know we were in he said he cried. Morris cried.
because it doesn't make any sense.
Mm-mm.
That's the confusing part. It's like how did you guys get dismantled? Like how did you stop playing what you were playing? What how, you know? Now my personal opinion, and I'll just be my personal opinion is that OU was a better team, but I don't know any team that consistently recovers from that deep of a deficit from a very good team. Texas is still a very good team, so yeah,
Right.
that's a little surprising. And you got a freshman quarterback coming in that hasn't played, you know, hasn't started a game, hasn't played a game. He's only been playing certain downs, and he
Mhm.
wasn't doing that good when he came in. And all of a sudden, he's Superman. I mean, it's just like, huh? I'll take. I'm an OU fan, so I'll take it. But I was just kind of like, okay,
Okay.
okay, yeah.
So, then the other thing, just as far as in the news, I don't know if you have. It probably didn't impact you just because this weekend we were traveling. We were doing a lot of traveling. We flew into Chicago on what day? Wednesday night. Then we flew out of Chicago into Kansas City. But over the weekend, do you know that Morris said we're traumatizing him all over again? We're sorry,
My
but
bad,
you
bro.
know this is what happens on this show sometimes.
My bad, bro. Your Cowboys look great though.
I didn't mention that the Bears did. I think that really Jon Gruden left because the Bears beat them so badly. But that's just a whole other thing. Got to support my Bears. Listen,
They did good. They
they're
did
doing it.
good.
I'm
They are.
I don't have I don't have high expectations as far as them like doing phenomenal this year, but I'm liking what I'm seeing. I think we still have a few things to get as far as O line and some other things, and in some respects, I think Matt Nagy is being exposed because
Mm,
maybe his coaching isn't as great as everyone thought. And maybe I'm even man enough to say maybe had Trubisky had the right coach, might have been different situation. But I'm still grateful we got Justin Fields and not Mitch Trubisky because that was a horrible pick anyway. All right, yeah, that's probably the reason he really got fired, right?
oh man. Yeah.
But yeah, the NFL is looking kind of crazy this year. But kind of going back to what I was about to jump into was, have you seen how um, Southwest has canceled like a bunch of flights?
Yeah, like over 1,000 flights.
Yeah,
What
like
was that about? Did they ever
I,
get to
so they tried to blame it on air traffic controllers, saying that there's an issue. But here's the problem: everybody uses the air traffic controllers.
right? That's not just your airline, sir.
It's not like
Ma'am.
Spirit got their own air traffic controllers running around somewhere, right?
Right?
So even the air traffic controllers like Union was like, "No, nah, don't say that was us because that's not us, dude." So some are thinking that it might be. They haven't really said too much, but some are thinking that it might be due to the fact that they have been Southwest has been basically like, "Look, get vaccinated or find another job." And so there's some thoughts that folks are like, "We're just not going to fly today." And that's why they've been canceling flights because when I tell you because we went for one of our church network things and there was a few pastors that I know that got stuck in Chicago a little longer than they expected to or had to drive back to their home place because flights were just being canceled left and right.
Mm-mm-mm. Wow.
So
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever find out, the actual reason, but yeah, it was 2,400 flights.
yeah, and
2,400.
right,
Do you know how many people? I'm just talking about flight crew.
yeah,
Yeah, that sounds like a policy enforcement that they couldn't, you know.
that bit them that turned around and bit them back. Yeah. Because I also put again, I will take a thread over here, pull a thread over there and figure out how they connect. Because if you notice, also Texas governor recently, just like yesterday or today, basically said he is eliminating all vaccine mandates in Texas. And Southwest is based where?
Texas,
In Texas.
quite possibly.
Yeah, exactly, Morrissey. Just ban mandates in Texas for private businesses. And since Southwest is there, it's very, that's just my thought. Again, putting two and two together and coming up with five, that's what I figure.
um, I'm vaccinated, but I am very much pro rights.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, the somebody else made the comment, if your kids have to be vaccinated in order to go to school, there are certain situations where you just simply have to be, in order for you to go into other countries, you got to have certain vaccinations. You
hmm,
just have to, and
yeah,
we've accepted that before. And I but I you know and I get the glaring differences with what we're dealing with now versus what we've grown up with, what has
right.
become the norm. Glaring differences, and I get all of that. But at the end of the day, if we're going to remain America, and this is just my personal soapbox, if we're going to remain America, people still have the right and choice not to get any of those vaccines, not to
Right.
send their kids to school, not to participate in the way our society is set up. That is the freedom of being an American.
Right.
That is honestly the last thing that really differentiates us as a democracy from anywhere else. You start trying to make people, and I please know I get it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Lord knows I get it. I don't want anybody to die from this. I just walked my mother through this whole COVID thing, and
Right.
strangely, and well, anyway, that's for another story. Um, that as much as I dealt with her physically,
Hmm.
I got no symptoms whatsoever,
Yeah.
none. Um, so yeah, there's some conspiracy theory there about the naturally immune, and
Hmm.
anyway, we'll probably dig into that one of these days.
That's a whole other episode right there.
Yeah, right there, all by itself. Yeah. Beside, and I'm starting to watch The Last Ship again. Um, hey,
Ooh.
yeah. If you haven't watched The Last Ship, this is parallel, big time. I'm like, wait, let me go. Hold on, let me go back to this. Was this them being prophetic or giving us a heads up?
Oh, we let's not talk about programming because that's probably a whole other that's a whole other episode there too. But we can dig into things that if we look at them and go, we look at what's happening and then we go back and like we find that it was predicted, predictive programming before
Hmm.
Trump being elected, 9/11,
Dude,
Kobe.
the Simpsons, man. What is that? Somebody lying. They can't. They've been way too consistent
Yeah,
for over 20 years.
yeah,
Yeah, that is a whole show. That's a whole
yeah.
conspiracy theory show, bro. Write
All
that
right,
one
I'm
down.
taking notes. Yeah, because predictive programming is another
Write that
episode
one
for
down, man. I believe, I do believe that is possible. Just because we understand, um,
oh yeah.
the spirit realm, and how we have an understanding of how that works in a way that uh, the average human probably wouldn't believe, and
Mhm.
may not, but also even the average believer may not even fully come to grasp yet. And
And and that just we know this, right? That um that the difference between a prophet for the kingdom of God and a prophet for the kingdom of darkness is just what side they're playing for, right? The gifts are there. I believe that the gifts are within people for that can be used for whatever team they play for, right?
it is the source of information, and then the intent for use.
Right. Because
Absolutely.
because in the scriptures we find that there were prophets of Baal, there were
Hmm.
prophets of false
Hmm.
gods.
Hmm.
Does not mean that they were not accurate,
Oh,
right?
quite.
So,
Yeah, quite. And
so yeah.
understood how to, you know, it boiled down to, especially in the Old Testament, it boiled down to why are you doing this?
Hmm.
Not just who are you doing it for?
Right.
You know, there were prophets who were trained, uh, you know, in the school of prophets for Hebrews for the Israelites, and then left that to become prophets for basically um, mercenaries,
Right.
prophetic
Prophets for
mercenaries.
hire.
Yeah, and
Coming to TBN. Prophets for hire.
prophets for hire. Why did I hear the Bad Boys theme? Bad Boys, Bad Boys, what you come to? Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely. But with all that said and done, there's just Hollywood. These preemptive, steps of, hey, we're going to show you something, and 2 years later, here we are.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. What were you trying to say? Yeah.
But Morris, you know we're right. You know we're absolutely right on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh man, please. If we call it profits for hire, but I think the show was called Preachers. Did I say that? Did I say
or
that?
are you talking about the other one, the one that was
Or
for
Preachers of
female
L.A.?
preachers, or the one that was called Preach, which was, I don't know if you remember that one. That one was just so messy. That was all lady preachers.
Oh God, yes, yes, yes. That was a hot mess.
I don't
Wasn't
think they
somebody like
even.
living with their boyfriend and
Yeah, if I remember correctly. Yes.
she's a pastor? Yeah, man. They had some wild. Well, that the Preachers of L.A. Why was Dietrich Haddon on there? Why was he even on there? They spun. They took stuff out of context, but yet you signed up for a second year.
So what do we think about Archbishop Jordan? Oh, okay.
In what context? Because there's a lot there, bro. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't just throw that out. Yeah, not with him. There's a lot there. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of shift in theology. Um,
Hmm.
there's a whole lot of pushback relationally because he's got quite a bit of support again
Hmm.
from mainstream.
Which I find interesting.
Well, he honestly never lost it. They just got quiet.
True.
You know,
True.
once he started toning down the money rhetoric and started kind of ratcheting back up the rest of it, because the other thing that, like we said, with the profits, it depends on who you're doing it for, the source of information, and why you're doing it.
Right.
Um, there's probably no greater, more accurate known prophet in the United States that I can think of.
Hmm.
Um, that that brother, whew,
Yeah.
he is frighteningly accurate.
Yeah.
Like I've had the opportunity to like be in his services. I'm sure you have too, but be in his
Hmm.
services. Probably the one that stands out to me the most is when he gave the prophetic word prior to Miles Monroe preaching in, was it the first Azusa, first or second Azusa, when
Hmm.
Miles preached, his landmark message on purpose, bro. The word that came before that,
Hmm.
and Miles Monroe like said, I could go home now. That was the first thing he said. He said the word has been preached.
Yeah.
What I came to deliver has been spoken. I could go
Yeah.
home. So, anyway, and then you got the twists that went straight into, oh, this makes money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He is. To say that he is probably one of the most accurate, and not just accurate, but also clear, right? Because we know that sometimes you can be accurate, but you've got to kind of dig through to pull out the accuracy out of it, right? But he is pretty clear. A plus B plus C equals D squared,
D.
right?
Yeah.
So, so yeah, there was again, as you mentioned, and there was the pulling away as far as folks that were overtly connected with him or overtly supporting. But because I found it interesting that was it Benny Hinn that embraced the sun,
Mhm.
like almost wrapped himself completely into the sun.
Mhm.
And so, and I don't know too much about the sun. It seems as if they've been trying to set up the son as essentially carrying the same lineage, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. Manasseh
Yeah,
Jordan.
yeah,
Uh, which Manasseh stepped out into his own vein, and I remember hearing a few messages from him um, that were good.
mhm,
The gift was definitely it was obviously on him. It wasn't dad or family
manufactured.
trying to push him,
Gotcha.
into the
Okay,
family business. He definitely had something. TBN began to embrace him.
okay,
He definitely began to get embraced by the mainstream because he wasn't necessarily preaching a prosperity type of message.
gotcha.
Um, and then I don't know, somewhere in all of that, him coming into, growing into his own quote unquote ministry, it shifted back into, the same message as his dad that I
Mhm,
can remember. Okay. But yeah, Manasseh, very interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
very, very interesting. What are your thoughts, man? You got anything deeper than that? Because I'm gonna tell you who else is extremely accurate too. Um, Scarily accurate, and that is your apostle.
Yeah.
I would put him in the frighteningly accurate category for a couple of reasons. He's the type of prophet that won't just tell you about the good stuff coming your way.
Listen, because we were just with him this past weekend, and just as a side note, it was refreshing because we, as a pastor, we had not had that type of connection for 2 years because we haven't been able to meet, right? But when I tell you, without going into much detail, but the word that he gave went back to something that happened 20 years ago. Like he's like, oh wait, what? He's like Tulsa, Tulsa, Oklahoma. So he's like, and the leader's words pierced you. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I watched
You
him
better than
move.
me. I'd have turned around and walked. And
Listen,
I'm a prophet. I kind
I
of bounced.
I watched him move around that room, and when I tell you the reactions and responses of folks was like, you he would say something, and it was you could tell that it was exactly what they had been thinking about, praying about, what have you. It was just, and it wasn't like he had to, how sometimes it's like you got to pause and hear what God is saying. It was just like, come here, da 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 da, come here, da 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 da, come here, da 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 da.
Mhm. Mhm.
Another person that you may not know who is also very accurate as
Let
far as
me let me
my
pause you. Let me
go
pause you
ahead.
because uh we mentioned who we were talking about without saying who we're talking about. So
So Dr. Matthew Stevenson, yes.
yes,
So All
just in case.
Nations Collective, one my overseer, my apostle, my leader. Um, and he is he is within the same camp is Sherman Dumas, Apostle Sherman Dumas.
That's another one. That's another one. Yeah.
He listen, when because he does, and if you follow him on his Instagram or what have you, he'll do um just prophet nights or whatever, where he'll just go on and he will be ministering, but then he'll just have an accurate word, and then you'll have people, oh my God, oh my. So yeah, like to the point where he's calling out names over Instagram. So but listen, that's we're actually close to our time. But go ahead, Darian. I want to let you finish
No,
up. That's a
I was just
whole other
thinking about that. That is a whole that may be another, write that one down too, man, because I don't know if the prophetic is so ethereal and um uh but to me it's such a fun topic
yeah,
to talk about, simply because man, the where you can go with it if you will, and no, how can I put it? Yes, there are levels. Yes, there are
mhm,
different giftings and different types within, just within in the prophetic. There is a general prophesying. There's a general that that Moses and Paul talk about, that
mhm,
they wish that everyone would,
right,
and that prophecy is better than tongues, and yeah, yeah, yeah.
mhm,
And then there's that next step up into um, you know being able to foretell or forthtell. Anyway, we're supposed to be stopping.
yeah,
Write this
because
down.
that's listen. I got
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because I would love to dig into that, and just hear people's commentary, because the more knowledge you have, the more benefit that ministry
right,
is to you, rather than going off of mystical part of it.
right,
You know,
absolutely. All
good
right, listen,
stuff.
before we dive into something else, listen, that is it for Chop It Up for this episode. Tori, listen, we we want you back, bruh. I'll rescind the whole order, kill order as far as you being part of the team. But shout out to Tori. Tori had something else that he needs to take care of today, get some rest. So, Morris, appreciate you hanging out with us. Glad you
Yeah.
enjoyed the topics every time. Listen, we're here every Tuesday, and there is now, and I can put it out there. There is now a Chop It Up YouTube page. I'm starting to move things
Hey.
that had been on the YouTube page that I share with my wife. I'm moving that over to its own Chop It Up channel. So definitely come check that out. Need some subscribers over there. You can just search for Chop It Up. You should see the logo and everything, and we'll be there as well, in addition to being on the Facebook pages. All right.
Nice.
That's it for this edition. Have a great one. We'll see you next time. Be blessed.